Just a note that this video is being recorded on the Monday of this week because of my schedule, so some of the more recent news this week may not be reflected in this video. I'll be sure to cover any missed topics in next week's video. Enjoy this week's This Week in Transit episode. Hello, welcome to D-Transit and welcome back to This Week in Transit. This week, we'll cover New Jersey Transit's push forward of the Glassboro-Camden Line, more federal pushback and uncertainty over rail projects, a date for the reveal of the MTA's Queens bus network, and breaking ground in the capital city of the Golden State, Sacramento. Before we get into it, if you enjoy This Week in Transit, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Our first stop takes us to the south of the Garden State, New Jersey. New CEO of New Jersey Transit, Kris Kolluri, told the public on February 19th that he intends to see pre-construction begin on the proposed Glassboro-Camden Line near Philadelphia. Kolluri intends to move along a project that has been proposed since the 90s, the start of expanded service in an extremely transit-devoid South Jersey. Previously, Kris Kolluri served as the head of the Gateway Commission, which is currently on schedule and on budget to complete their plethora of projects rehabilitating the Northeast Corridor between Newark and New York. The Glassboro-Camden Line would reactivate passenger service along a Conrail right-of-way, beginning in Camden, before following a new viaduct to South Camden, then the Conrail-owned right-of-way to Glassboro with 14 intermediate stations. At its north end, the line would terminate at the Walter Rand Transportation Center, where connections would be possible with New Jersey Transit's Riverline Light Rail and the Patco Speed Line for service into Philadelphia. The GCL would be a DMU light rail service. Overall, it's a huge boost for South Jersey Transit, especially considering how poorly serviced half the state has been in recent times. While the GCL proposes to connect a few huge suburbs to Philadelphia, use an existing right-of-way, and create new opportunities, the choice to go with diesel worries residents in the surrounding areas. Since South Jersey is such an interesting area in terms of transit history, yet so deprived of transit today, expect a full video on this area soon. Our next stop takes us up a step, to the federal government. The entrance of the Trump administration has brought shakeups to the transit future of America, especially for Amtrak and other rail projects. Worries rise for Amtrak, the Federal Passenger Rail Corporation, and other rail projects in other parts of the country, as well as interstate projects. New Jersey Transit's Kris Kolluri even said publicly that there is no way to cover the $300 million supplied by the federal government to New Jersey Transit if it were to be cut. During the first Trump administration, a bipartisan Congress helped continue funding for infrastructure projects. But in the second Trump administration, President Trump has been much more fierce in picking secretaries of departments who align extremely closely with his values. While some Republicans are incredibly supportive of increased Amtrak service, like Senator Wicker of Mississippi, others are only focused on whether Amtrak turns a profit, which is quite honestly a ridiculous way to view infrastructure projects that service the public. One example of this is the Pittsburgh-Harrisburg portion of the Keystone Corridor in Pennsylvania, which was promised large amounts of funding through President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. Funding would help increase the speed on the line and expand capacity, but Pennsylvania's transportation secretary is worried about going forward with the project, citing concerns that all funding could be revoked midway through by the government. And scenes like this will take place across much of the United States. There's much to be seen from Washington about what happens in the next 4 years, but if you are worried about transit in the United States, I implore you to take a look at the reactions to the U.S. Department of Transportation's choices to kill congestion pricing in New York City and all but cancel funding to California's high-speed rail project. Local reactions from the people to the representatives has been extremely positive.
California's high-speed rail disaster is the worst public infrastructure failure in U.S. history.
In case you don't know, New Yorkers, we're in a fight. We do not back down. Not now, not ever.
Let's move to the New York Borough of Queens, where a highly anticipated bus redesign plan has had a date attached to it by New York's MTA. The Queens bus network redesign is a $35 million network overhaul, which reimagines the bus network in Queens, adding 11 local routes, increasing frequencies on 17 existing ones, and increased service spans on 8 of them. The MTA will also add rush routes, which operate local in some areas and turn express in others, akin to that of some subway lines. Queens is one of the boroughs that lacks solid connections to New York subway. Transfers within the borough can require you to exit the borough then re-enter it. The MTA has announced that June 29th will be the first phase of the network redesign, with the second phase coming on August 31st. 84% of riders will use the same bus stops that they have been, but new lines will service it with different frequencies than before. And lastly, let's go out to Sacramento, where a new station has broken ground along Sac RT's Blue Line light rail service. The new station, Dos Rios, is positioned close to the River District along the American River, and services a district that was previously upwards of 10 blocks away from the nearest light rail station. Alongside connecting the Mirasol housing community, the station also links the commercial locations that surround the station's location. And with that, this week in transit comes to an end. Notice anything I missed? Be sure to comment below and I'll try to cover it next week. Keep in mind that the news that happened on Monday or after isn't covered in this video, but definitely will be in next week's. Once again, thanks for tuning in to This Week in Transit. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.